Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, NmW&x, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Naomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. Well, hey, family, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast, where we embrace healing, growth, and transformation one episode at a time. Well, I am your host, NmW&x, and as always, I am so honored to be sharing this space with you. Today is Wisdom Wednesday. And also this year, we are embracing the year of rebirth, a year of shedding, evolving, and stepping fully into the best version of ourselves. And this month, we are focusing on mindfulness and presence, because real transformation happens now in the present moment. Well, today's episode is all about how small, consistent actions can lead to big transformation in our lives. And I have the perfect guest to help us dive into this, and that's Dennis Henson, the author of Real Impact Daily Inspiration. Dennis is a mindset coach and speaker who believes that small daily habits create massive change over time. But before we bring Dennis to the stage, let's take a quick break, all right? It's your girl, Goddess NmW&x, here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good, so I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
Hey, it's your girl, Goddess NmW&x, and make sure you tune in every Thursday night to Ask Naomi Bridging the Gap podcast, where we talk about everything from love, sex, relationship, cultural differences, and so much more. We're bridging the gap between them all, and we even talk about spiritual uplifting. You need to stop by. Me and Dr. Mike, as well as the BTG crew. We have some amazing guests that come through. You never know. Just make sure you tune in Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go to xnaomi.com and tell them Naomi sent you. All right, well, welcome, Dennis. How are you?
I'm just great, Naomi. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, I am so excited. I'm so excited for this episode. I read a lot on your bio and everything that you wrote, and it's a great thing that you're doing. I know for one thing is we talk about mindset a lot here on the Season of Self-Love, and all about changing it as well. But I can't wait to truly get into deep with you. But before we do that, it's something we do here on the Season of Self-Love, but we ground ourselves before we get into the topic. All right?
Sure.
All right. So my beautiful people, if we just take a moment right now just to close your eyes for a moment. Let's take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. And close your eyes if you can and allow yourself to fully be present in this moment. Feel your feet on the ground. Your breath flowing naturally in the space you occupy. As we step into today's episode, I want you to set an intention for yourself. What do you need more of today? Clarity, focus, or peace? Just breathe it in. Now I want you to visualize yourself one step closer to the life that you desire. No rush, no pressure, just small, intentional movements in the right direction. Now take one last deep breath in and exhale completely. And when you are ready, gently open your eyes and bring this sense of awareness with you into our conversation. All right, my beautiful people, if you are new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, again, this is something that we do every day, Monday through Friday, just to ground us until we get into the topic at hand. All right, Dennis. So your book, Real Impact Daily Inspiration, is all about how small daily habits create long-term transformation. So can you share what inspired you to focus on this concept?
Naomi, I've been investing in real estate for 50 years. And when I moved to Dallas-Fort Worth about 30 years ago, I started investing in Texas. There wasn't any real estate investor groups near where I lived. I live in Arlington. The closest ones were in Dallas and Fort Worth, and that may seem close, but the DFW area is big. And so it's an hour drive, and if there's traffic, it's more. So I thought I'll start a group in Arlington. So I started a real estate investing group in Arlington and started teaching classes. One of the members came up to me and said, Dennis, I am about to retire in about 3 weeks, and I want you to mentor me. He said, I'm going to pay you to mentor me. And I said, well, Mike, I really don't have time with my real estate and these meetings. I'm not interested. And he looked at me funny. He said, Dennis, you didn't hear what I said. I said, I'm going to retire and you're going to mentor me. So he said, let's go out. I'll buy your lunch and we'll talk about it. So we went out to lunch. I told my wife, Norma, right before I left, I said, I'm not going to do this. I don't have time. I'm not interested. So after we ate, he had on a suit like this. He reached in his pocket and he pulled out a checkbook. He opened it up, handed it to me. He said, here, fill this in. And I said, do you mean the amount? And he said, yes. And I thought, this will solve this problem. I'll put a number here that no one in their right mind is going to pay, and then that'll be the end of this. So I put the number in, handed it back to him. And without looking at it, he took the check out and signed it and handed it back to me. That's when I started teaching. So I thought, well, if people are going to give me this kind of money, I better have a pretty good course. So I put together something that I thought would really work, and it really did. My students just excelled. They became some of the most successful investors and business people in Texas. I got a reputation so that I was being invited to speak at events, speak at expos, speak at other meetings, and I got invited to a podcast back when podcasts first got started.
Yeah.
So the host said, Dennis, why are your students so successful? Can you help my listeners? And I said, well, sure. I have them change their habits. If they will form success habits, they will become successful. And then he said, Dennis, what is the most important success habit? The number one. I thought for a second and I said, well, if they form the habit of reading something positive every day that moves them toward their goal, whatever the goal is, in this case, it's real estate, then they'll become successful much faster. So after the podcast was over, I thought, man, that was a great answer. Wouldn't it be wonderful if there were a tool to help people form that habit? You know, like an app or a book. And then it hit me. It was almost like I was jarred. Dennis, you've been collecting short stories, poems, quotes for 50 years. And all you have to do is put those together, and there's no excuse. If someone wants to form the habit of reading, their time slot doesn't matter because everybody's busy. I mean, there's no time. But anybody has time to read a quote. If you have 5 minutes between meetings, you read a poem. Or if you're at the airport waiting for a plane, you can read one of the books that's listed in the back for 2 or 3 hours. Or if you have a medium slot of time, you could read a long short story or a short story. So people have no excuse. I thought, well, it'll take me about a month to put this together. 6 years later, working every day, I came up with the book. And it's one that I'm very proud of. I put it on Amazon and waited to see what people thought. Mm-hmm. And so I challenge everyone to go to Amazon and look up Dennis J. Henson or Real Impact and read the reviews, because people say this is like life-changing book. They say this is amazing. There's nothing like it. And there's nothing else. This book is not similar to any other book or any other self-help book. So anyway, that's what inspired me to get this going. And I'm so happy that it's changing people's lives already.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Such a powerful reminder for us. So let me share this with you. Last year around in November, December, myself and my listeners, I started a book club. And we were reading the book, Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor. And he talked about changing, our paradigm and our mindset of what we think and our habits. And so we did a 30-day challenge. Well, first of all, it was a 10-day book challenge that we had, and we all read it. We came back and forth with it to, kind of help us along with the mindset, that. But then for this year, I have took, a couple of the principles that Bob Proctor spoke about in his book. We call them the DVD principles. We talked about, making the decision, then understanding what visualization is, and then applying the discipline with it. And that's our foundation for this year here on the series. So it's just so lovely that you come on here and you're talking about mindset. And even when you were like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And he hands you a blank check. And you write in a number that you just think that, no, he's not going to do it. And at that moment, at that time, your mindset, your paradigm was changed right then and there. When that man hands you back that check and you was like, oh, okay. All right, I got it. I know I'm going to do it.
That's right.
So I thank you for sharing that story with us. And I know it just came right on time for us as we are going into our 4th month. And, the first 3 months of the year, we go, 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 go. But we always need that reminder. We always need that reminder or that reset for what we're going to do for the next 6 years or 6 months or even the next moment in our lives. And again, I thank you for just coming in and just sharing that story. So many of us, we feel overwhelmed when we want to change our lives, and you said that the one person said that they were going to retire in a week and they were looking for something to change, but we think that if we have to do it all at once. But you're saying that it's really about stacking small wins, right?
Yes, in the book, and the first part of the book, it says how to use this book and the magic formula. And the way to use the book is you sip it like fine wine. It's not meant to be read from cover to cover. You just read until something moves you, and then you contemplate that. There's something that monks put together back in the 5th century called Lectio Divina, where they wanted to get closer to the scriptures. So they would take a scripture each day and they would read it silently. Then they would imagine themselves being part of the scripture. Then they would read it out loud, and then they would contemplate it for the rest of the day. So I was on the podcast about my book, and someone said, that sounds like Lectio Divina. And I said, what's that? And so I looked it up, and surely that's what this book is about. It's not about the quantity of the reading. I don't want you to read a chapter a day or even an entire short story. You read until something grabs you that says, this is important. let's contemplate this. And Naomi, one of the things, well, two of the things this book does is, first of all, if you're going to read something every day that moves you toward your goal, you first have to have a goal. So many people are walking around thinking, oh, what's the purpose of my life? When if they'll just be quiet, I was thinking about this when you had your introduction, if they'll just be quiet and silent and listen, your desires will come to you. And you wouldn't have been given those desires unless everything you need to realize them was already available to you through the universe. I mean, everything you need. When I was in high school, I hated school. I'd never thought about going to college. I was in the band. I loved the band. One day a college band came to our school, and I was a drummer. And they brought their marching drum section. And I saw that marching drum. It was great. Did you ever see the movie Drumline?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Those things those people were doing, this was back in the 60s. I think the Drumline came out in the 90s or even after 2000. Mm-hmm. But that school was doing that kind of stuff 50 years ago. And when I saw that, I thought, I have got to be part of that. So I went to my band director and I said, how do I get into that drum section? And he looked at me and he said, well, you got to go to college. And with your grades, you're not going to get in college. And I remember saying, if I change my grades, they let me into college? And he said, well, you'll have to change them to see. So from that point to when I graduated, I took my grades from D's and F's to A's and B's. And at the end of my high school career, I was accepted into Jacksonville State University and became a member of the drum section and the section leader. So that's what having a goal can do. If you really know what you want. And I did what the book says. I read about this every day. I did my homework. I learned to become a better drummer. I learned all of the drum rudiments. So it doesn't really matter what your goal is. I mean, you maybe want to become a nurse or a doctor, or maybe you want to become an engineer or work on computers. It doesn't matter what your goal is. You just need to know, here's where I want to go. And so every day you move a step in that direction. And it's amazing what you can accomplish. It's literally amazing. And I know you know that. I can tell by your program that this fits in exactly with what you've been teaching. By the way, Bob Proctor is one of my heroes too.
Mine too. Yeah. And as you were speaking, as you were talking, I said, wow, I have my own version of Bob Proctor on here. So I thought that was cute because we, even at the end of that Bob Proctor book, we did a challenge. Actually, myself and my sister did, where we were accountability partners, and we did it for 90 days. And I still listen to it. I listen to it on my Audible every other morning, just to keep going with it, and just because sometimes we kind of fall back. We kind of, fall out of that habit, what we do. And that's exactly why I'm so glad that you're here in this month to kind of remind us, to bring us forward. And especially, honestly, I did not know that you were going to come out so strong with it. When I say that you sound like Bob Proctor, even in your voice, in your tone of your voice, I feel like that this is another life of Bob Proctor that is talking to us right now. And even in your beliefs that you have talked thus far, that you're talking about. And that's why I said to myself, like, okay, I have my own Bob Proctor here.
Well, that's quite an honor to be in the same class with him. Many of the books in the back of the book are ones you're going to really love, because back in 1975, I went to work with a large company and they gave me 4 books. Actually, they gave me 3 books. Success, the Glenn Bland Method, Think and Grow Rich, and The Greatest Salesman in the World. Now, shortly after that, I read The Richest Man in Babylon, so that's the fourth one. But you don't have to write that down, because I'm going to give everyone that's tuning in a free ebook copy of my book, if that's okay, and it has the list of books in the back. So if you want to get that copy, just go to realimpactbook.com, scroll to the bottom where it says podcast attendees. And if you click on that, put in your name and email, the book is instantly sent to you. You instant download, and you won't be put on an email list unless you click and say, I want to know when you write another book. If you click that, I'll let you know when I write other books. But this is free. There are no strings attached. It's the entire book. It's not a piece of it. And in the back of the book is a list of books that I've accumulated over a 50-year period. And I didn't put those books, I didn't save them unless they really were powerful. I mean, they are. I had one person on Amazon review said, I gave you a 5-star because of the list of books in the back. That's how powerful. You're going to love them. I can already tell, you're going to really. But the stories in the book, I've been collecting those for years too. And they're cathartic. In other words, they're going to bring a tear to your eye. And I know that because I didn't put them in there unless they brought a tear to my eye. And I'm a crusty old businessman. And so you're going to get ready. You're going to love these stories. And I'm telling you that not because I'm a great writer. The stories were good before I put them in there.
Right.
I mean, they were just great stories. And all I had to do was just, tweak them a little bit and, do a little research and make them a little better. But they're about people who struggle. They tried and they wanted something really bad, and they struggled so hard, and finally they became successful. And now you know their name. I mean, they're so successful. And you think, whoa, I had no idea those people went through all of this. One time, there's a group called Alabama. It's a country western group.
I remember that.
Somebody was interviewing Randy Owen, and they said, Randy, how does it feel to have this overnight success? And he looked at him and he said, what overnight success? What about all those years going to bars when there was 4 people there and they were having fights and throwing bottles at us, and sometimes nobody showed up? He said, that was like 20 years of that. So there's no overnight success involved with Alabama. And it's the same way with most successful people. They had struggles. They failed a lot, but they got up and continued. So when you read this book, I'm not going to tell you the names of the people because I'm going to surprise you.
Right.
But when you read this book, you are going to be shocked at some of the names and some of the things they went through to get to the point where people consider them to be super successful people.
Well, I'm excited. And as you were talking, I wrote down the book. And why I wrote down the book is because we're figuring out another book. I'm figuring out another book to do with the book club. And I'm going to read this book. I'm going to read this book this weekend.
All right. Good.
Yeah, this weekend. And I really believe this is probably our next book in the book club. I really believe, I just feel like this came at the right time, truly for me too. Well, one thing is what I love about doing this podcast, The Season of Self-Love, is that not only do our guests, as I call you all, my teammates, come here with me, not only a message for our listeners, but also a message for me. So I'm very aware of everything that is coming to me that is so aligned. Just so aligned. And just as you were talking about the books, the mindset, and even starting off small with Alabama, using that as only 4 people in the clubs, but continue to keep going on and on and on and on. That's that resilience. That's that determination. That is a part of that mindset and that desire that you just talked about. And also that Bob Proctor talks about is that once you have that desire and that need and you want, then there's nothing going to stop you. You just need to know that it's going to happen. You ain't got to worry about how it's going to happen. You just have to take the steps to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another great thing about the book is this: if you read something positive every day that moves you toward your goal, you have to think of what your goal is every single day. So it's like putting a rudder on a boat. You know, if a boat's out in the middle of the water and there's no rudder, it just goes in every direction. And that's what the human mind does. But if you think this is what I really want, and every day, I got to do my reading to get me closer to what I really want, then it keeps you focused. And focus is the key. You have to know what you want and focus on it. It's like a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
If you want to start a fire with a magnifying glass, you can't move it around. You have to focus it on one spot, and a fire starts. Well, that can happen with you too. You can start a burning desire inside yourself, and you can accomplish anything. You know, so most people don't. They think. Someone asked me, Dennis, what do you think is the biggest obstacle to success? And hold your breath, because this is going to be a shock. And I said, it's people's butt.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because they'll say, I wish I could be a doctor, but I don't have the money. Yeah. But I don't have the contacts. But so they need to move their butts. And put an "and" in there. I want to be a doctor, and I'm finding a scholarship, and I'm reading about medicine every day, and I'm meeting people who are doing what I want to do. If they'll just move their butts, they'll become successful a lot faster. So I shocked you, didn't I?
No, I love that. I do. I love that. When you said "but," I was like, oh, I got it. So I knew exactly where you was going for a moment, though. I was like, but then I got it. I love that. I do. I love that. But let's be real. You know, sometimes life has, right now, how it's going in the world right now is very chaotic, with setbacks and everything like that. How do we keep that growth mindset when we're in a tough season?
Well, you have to hang on. You have to hang on to it. I think Abraham Lincoln said, when you find yourself at the end of the rope, tie a knot and hang on. So everyone in this book failed and failed and failed and failed. But what made them different was when they failed, they got up and dusted off their pants and continued on. So that's the answer. Life is tough. You're going to have, everybody has problems. And if you don't have a problem, you better look out, because there's one coming. That's just life. And if you're in business, problems come much, much quicker. I mean, a business is dealing with problems. It's just a constant struggle. But that's okay. That's what makes it fun,
Right.
And the successes are so much more fun when you've had to deal with failure after failure after failure.
Yeah.
So don't worry about things. The Bible says 365 times, don't be afraid. Did you know that? That's one for every day of the year. Mm. And I just learned that a while back, and I looked, and that's true. And it's amazing. So you don't have to be afraid.
Right.
We're all going to end up in the same place, especially when you get to be my age. You think, well, 30 years from now, I better leave something really good, because I won't be here to help people. But I really believe that when I'm gone, this book will continue to help people for years, 50, 100. So I used to wonder, did Seneca know that people would be quoting him hundreds of years after he's gone? Or Or did Napoleon Hill know that he was going to help business people become millionaires for 50, 100 years with his book? And so I was wondering that, and listening to YouTube, and I was listening to Napoleon Hill, and it was a recording of right after his book, Think and Grow Rich, had come out. And he said, "This is my new book." And I thought, wow, that's funny, new book. And it's helping thousands of people become wealthy, become millionaires, having successful businesses. And over the years, it's going to help millions of people. So he knew, right? I mean, he knew right away. And I know too. I sincerely believe that, my goal is, the thing I focus on every day is to get this book into millions of hands, not necessarily to make $1 million, but to help 1 million people.
Yeah.
And like Zig Ziglar said, if you have enough people get what they want, you will get what you want. And so I sincerely believe that. And it's the law of reciprocity. What you put out, you're going to get back in multiples. And truly, this book is going to help a lot of people. I mean, it really is. And I'm giving it to you. Don't let it sit. Go get it and put it to use. And I promise you, it'll change your life. And here's something even better. It'll change people's lives that you know. People are going to be graduating in a couple of months. What could be a better gift? I made this book so nice, this hardcover edition. I was on a podcast with a person that owned a publishing company. He published books and printed books himself. He didn't do this one. And he was interviewing me. And he held this up during his podcast and he said, "Dennis, this is the nicest book I've ever held in my hand." And why did he say that? Well, I used to own a printing company. So I knew what the best papers were. I knew about color separation. I knew about binding. Yeah. And so when you hold this book in your hand, you think, "Whoa, this is really, really nice." And it makes a nice gift. Where else can you find a gift that's going to change someone's life and it's under $50? And if you're a grandparent and you want to give a legacy, people don't throw books away, especially nice books. You give this to your grandchild, 70 years from now, they'll have it in their bookshelf and say, "My grandma gave me this and I love this book." So that's something that you can keep in mind. But if you just get the paperbacks, $15, and give it to someone that's young and hadn't decided what they want to do with their life, you could have made it. You can make a big, actually a real impact. Real impact on what happens to those people. Yeah. So anyway, I was listening to something one time, and it was a guy that worked with authors, and they said, "What do successful authors have that other authors don't have?" The super successful ones. And he thought for a second, and he said, "They really believe in their book. They believe their book's going to change people's lives." And I thought, well, that's me. I believe in this, and I believe it can change your life, whoever you are. If you will let it and use it the way it's intended, it's a life-changing book.
Yeah, well, you got me believing. You got me believing. You truly do have me believing. Yeah, I believe it. I truly do believe in it. I cannot wait to read it. And once I read it, I'm definitely going to share that with our listeners. And yeah, I'm going to claim it right now. I believe we are going to definitely do. And once we do that, I want to invite you for a live session with us.
Oh, great.
Once we do that. Yeah, I think that would be amazing. I think you just created something new for me right now.
I love those. I've done a couple of them. People, ask questions, and I really, really enjoy that. One other thing, Naomi, when you go to realimpactbook.com, on the very first page, there's a link that says Help the Children.
Okay.
I started a GoFundMe program to give these books to disadvantaged communities. where the libraries can afford it. There's a lot of schools that just don't have the budget to get the things they need for their schools. So I want to give these books to schools in disadvantaged communities. I want to give them to senior citizens homes, to nursing homes. And if you go to the GoFundMe and donate, you know, a paperback's $15 or a hardback is $35. If you know, or if you want to do 100 or 1,000, I had someone last week donate $1,000, and I appreciate it. But it's not one of those charities where the president makes $1 million. Every penny goes to purchase the book, to give to the disadvantaged, to help the children, to continuing education, child literacy. So I sincerely believe in that kind of thing. And if you want to help me, I would appreciate it.
Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely. I love that. I love that you are doing that right now, especially that they're taking away books out of our system, our education system. Everything is being changed around, and so even in your book as well is teaching something that is truly not taught every day, not even in schools, with a mindset, with understanding of what that is, you know. And I love how you said about having that book to pass down generation. So not only are you building generational wealth, but also you're breaking generational curses all at the same time. So that's amazing. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing that you are doing, a part of your purpose. I'm just happy that you were courageous enough to listen and grab that check, because that check was that thing that changed your life. Yeah.
You know, your life can change many times. It can change on a dime. When I got to Jacksonville State, became the drum section leader, they had drum major tryouts one day. And as a joke, the drummers all pushed me out, said, go try out. Well, I'd never done anything. I hadn't even thought about being a drum major. And I went out there and did it. And I made such a big mistake that the whole band laughed. The drummers laid down on the ground and rolled around. It was just hilarious. And I thought, next time they have this drum major competition, no one will laugh. And I became the drum major of the Southerners. So little things can change, but when you decide on something that you really want, even though becoming the drum major of the Southerners, it would have seemed impossible if someone had said, that guy right there is going to become the drum major. They would have thought, no, that can't happen. It's impossible. But it did, because my will was strong enough and I worked on it every day. And I did all of the things that were necessary. So I can go back through my life. I'm 77, and I can see many times where some little thing happened that totally changed the direction. But then once I grabbed onto it, it was a done deal. Get out of the way, because I knew I could make it happen. I'd done it before, and you can too. Anybody can. Yeah. It's just a matter of having that strong, burning desire and faith.
Yes. Beautiful. I love that. As you were just talking before we closed, as you were talking, all our drumline, the little white boy in drumline, that's what I looked at you. So you literally was in drumline.
That's right. Except it was 40 years before drumline. We were doing things, and there's recordings on YouTube. You can go back and listen to the Southerners back in the 60s, and you can hear those that drum section that I was in. And that's good enough so that here, 60 years, 70 years later, it's still on. I mean, you can still hear it on YouTube.
Oh, beautiful. Well, Dennis, thank you so much. I mean, this conversation has been very valuable, a very valuable conversation. But before we wrap, what's one final piece of wisdom that you would like to leave with our listeners?
Well, if people will form the habit of reading something positive or listening to something positive every day that moves them toward their goal, that's the point that I want to make. It doesn't have to be this book. The book is just a tool to help you form the habit. You don't need to have the book if you have a strong will, but this makes it so simple. So it's like if a carpenter went to work and he didn't have a hammer, it's going to be kind of hard to build the building without the tool. I mean, if you take the hammer, all of a sudden driving nails becomes a lot easier. So, yeah, I would suggest it rather than trying to do it without the book. And Naomi, this is a very interesting book. It's got lots of mysteries in it. It's got lots of facts that you didn't know about people. So I think you'll enjoy it, and I can't wait to come back and be in front of your book club. I think that's just going to be a blast.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because we've never really talked about having any of the authors, there. We just, talked about just doing the books and, doing our challenges, stuff like that. So this will be amazing. This will truly be amazing. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm going to read it this weekend.
Right.
This weekend, I'm going to read it. Yeah.
Well, let me know what you think.
I sure will.
Go to Amazon and let everybody know what you think.
Yeah, I sure will. Where, Dennis? Oh my God, this is amazing. I just feel so good and full right now. I do. I feel so good and full. And where can our listeners find you in your work? Give out all your websites, your pages, if you're on social media.
Okay. Everything's on realimpactbook.com. Up at the top, it says contact us. It actually has my phone number. I'm not hard to get in touch with. It's got my phone number, email address. And if you want to see all my social media, just go to Google and type in Dennis J. Henson, and you'll see there's plenty to review.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you again. My beautiful listeners out there, family, I highly encourage you to check out Dennis' book, Real Impact Daily Inspiration. And don't forget our Year of Rebirth workbook. It's available for free download to help you to integrate today's insight in your life. Guys, I'm going to say it now. We are listeners. I'm going to put up a post in the next few days, and I'm going to open up to where we're going to start accepting people for this new challenge. Now, I'm going to read the book first and see how many days, if it's going to be 10 days, 20 days, or a 30-day challenge for the book club. And as you already heard, we're going to have Dennis come and join us for a live session as well. I think this is going to be something really great and new that we're starting here. And I thank you for just bringing this amazing book here. I already know that it's amazing because of how you talking about it. Honestly, I had over 50, 60 guests that's been on this show, and that most of them had books, and none of them ever talked about their book how you have. No one has. And I've picked up quite a few of the books and read them, and they had some amazing books. They all have. But just you sold me on it. I got to read this book. I truly do. Hey.
Well, I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, Dennis, thank you so much. Thank you so much for just sharing your wisdom. And to my listeners, I want you to remember that small steps lead to big transformation. Take one action today that aligns with your future and building your future. Next time, we are diving deeper into mindfulness practice that help us to stay present and at peace. So again, be sure to subscribe and share this episode and keep showing up for yourself. So until next time, keep choosing self-love, keep choosing presence, keep choosing you. Have an amazing day.